Okay, so I'll go ahead and get started. So, first of all, we want to welcome everyone who's here now and everyone who will be coming to our Basecamp Live. Man, we've been planning this thing, and we are so happy that you're here. This is kind of a live seminar or a live masterclass, a mixture of all these things where it's actually interactive and you guys can ask questions. Uh, we're going on the framework of a lot of intermediate players, bass players in any instrument, but they feel like they're boxed in. And why is that reason and how we can get out of that box? Because we've all seen videos where some bass players just so fluent and they can move up and down the neck, and we can learn riffs, we could learn certain stuff, but there's still some disconnect in how you can do that on the fly. Whether it's when you're playing, you feel nervous and whatnot, what's going on. So we collaborated with some great teachers and some great coaches to be able to break down certain things so that me and you, we could be able to see the neck in a different way. Okay. And we could take that and go in, put it together with our playing style and the music that we play, just so that we can be as fluent, especially from practice to performance. Okay, so let's get into that. Let me just go over a few things here. Okay, our objective in the next 90 minutes or so, you'll understand how to break out of the 4 fret box by learning how to map and phrase through the first 3 modes and start building a vocabulary, all right, you can actually use in playing, in live playing, even as soon as tomorrow. We want to make this in a way where the things you learn today you can start applying tomorrow and the day after right away. Okay. So this is the problem, like I said, why intermediate players get stuck. All right, the mental freeze when it's your turn to either solo or improvise, or something happens on the fly and someone wants you to do something in the band, and you kind of have to, I don't know, override it, and there's just a lot of fear there. So the thought is, I sound good until it's time to play, all right, by myself or with others, and the loop of practicing scales with no vocab. So we understand the shapes, we understand a tone, kind of, but it's as far as the fluidity. Where is the disconnect there? Okay. So that's our problem. So this is kind of our outline of our time here, and then we'll go on from there. Um, we have our 2 coaches. Coach Jason is going to go into why you feel that way and why what he's going to show you will work in helping you to map out where you are. And then he'll go into how to actually do the modal mapping, okay, the structure and the shape. So it's a good foundation for where you are with whatever notes you're playing. You can set a foundation to actually map out where you are, okay? And then Coach Greg is going to go into, now that we know what the foundation, we're going to go into phrasing, movement, and application, okay, of what we just learned. And then we're going to wrap up. I'll tell you more about Fellowship Plus, and then, yeah, we'll take it from there. So, with that being said, let me go ahead and change the screen here. We're going to go into seeing uh, the neck. Split screen. Okay, I think we're on. Jason, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, perfect. And if you guys can hear us, go ahead and write fire in the chat or the fire emoji so we know you can hear us. I can't really see who's on yet, but we're going to go ahead and do that. The more you guys, this is interactive as well. Any questions that you have during this session, okay, like I'm going to do a test, all right? I'm going to say this is fire. All right, I put that in the chat. It should come up. All right, and then we can actually show it on the screen so it comes up. All right, so anything that you have, anytime, you can ask as many questions as you want. So we'll go over seeing the neck here. So Jason, like I said, there's a lot of emotions that go into someone who knows how to play the bass, and they just, when it's time, they see other bass players improvising, and there's just a little disconnect and a little fear, just that split second of not knowing what to do. I would like and tell us as far as foundational where we should start, so we can build that confidence and actually see the neck in a way where we can move up and down. So I'll go ahead and give it to you, Jason.
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Jason, and I'm glad to be here to help you guys out. Um, I'm just like Mr. Fellowship said, I call it that. We're going to definitely go over the fundamentals foundation. So one of the things that I've been a little bit about me, I've been teaching for about 5 years, privately and online. I've been giving tips and through my shorts and my reels and stuff like that, YouTube and Instagram, and you can find me at It's J Cherry Music. But but as far as the neck, this thing is very intimidating. Um, it's 24 frets, depending on how many strings you have, 4, 5, 6, and you multiply that times 24. That's a lot of notes, and of course, it's redundant all over the neck. You have a C right here, C right here, C right here. It is sometimes it's hard to make sense of out of all of this of what's going on here. So that's the reason for the modes. The modes is to help you to gain some kind of structure and put together the neck and map it out in a musical way. Of course, you could play random exercises, but it doesn't really get you any much place because you can't really see how to use that with music. So what I want to go over today is I want to show you guys how to utilize the modes to kind of gain some understanding of mapping out this fretboard. Um, there's three modes I want to go over. That's the Ionian, Dorian, and the Phrygian mode. So the first one here, we'll do the Ionian, and we'll do it in the key of C. So basically, Ionian translates to a C major scale. So it's just a C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. That's all it is. So that first mode is basically the notes of the key. So let's talk about the fingers. What am I using for that mode? Basically, I like to do one finger per fret situation where if I lay out my fingers on the fretboard, I have this region that I'm in, and pretty much I like to keep everything in a structure here. So like on the C note, which is the third fret on the A string, that's where I'm starting. I'm going to use my second finger. So if I say my index is my first, my middle is my second, my ring is my third, and my pinky is my fourth, I'm going to start with my second finger and then my fourth finger. And then as I go up the scale, I go over to the next string. I'll use my first finger on E, second finger on F, fourth finger on G. Then I go over to the next string, and I'll use my first finger on A, my third finger on B, and my fourth finger on C, which is the octave. So if you look at the formula in a sense with the fingers, it's just 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4. That's the standard fingering. I mean, there's other ways to get this shape or get this mode, other shapes, but this is the shape I'd recommend that you guys start off with. Is you start off with that shape. Again, it's 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, and then 1, 3, 4. Now, I just ascended. Anything that you ascend, you must descend as well. So that way you can see it in that way as well. So I'll just do the same thing. I'm just going to do it in a descending order. So I just mapped out the first mode, which is Ionian. The next mode would be starting on the second note of the scale, which is the mode is called D Dorian, or the Dorian mode. But since we're in the key of C, we take the root note of the mode and call it by that. So it's D Dorian, and basically it's going to be, if I do that same approach with the one finger per fret, I'll have my first finger on the root note, which is D, then my third finger on the second note, and then my fourth finger on the third note. So that's D, E, F. And then I'll go over a string, and I'll play first finger with the G, and then with the A, I'll play my ring finger, my third finger, and then I'll go over another string and play B, which is the sixth note, with my index finger, and then seventh note with my second finger, and then the octave with my fourth. So then you have the shape is basically this: 1 3 4, 1 3, 1 2 4, and then you of course you descend. Again, this is standard fingering. Really good to start off with this fingering because this will keep you aligned with, getting the most out of the bass without having to, have where you're all over the place, where you're pretty much, you're starting here at one point or you're starting here. No, you have a fixed shape for that. The next mode would be E Phrygian, and that's starting on the third note of the scale. So again, I'm gonna use that approach, that one finger per fret. Start with my E, with my index finger, my first finger, and then that'll be E going to F with my second finger, and then go into G with my fourth finger. Then I'm gonna go over a string and play A with my first finger, and then B with my third finger, and then C with my fourth finger. And then I'll go over the next string to finish it off and play D, which is the seven with my first finger, and then the octave with my third finger. So it just sounds like this. And then, of course, descend. So basically, those are the three modes. But what you really want to get out of this is understanding that these are the fundamental building blocks of harmony. The modes do produce chords or whatnot, and these are the fundamental notes to play on the chord. Of course, there's other notes you could play, but from a fundamental standpoint, the chords that are within the key of C, these are the first three modes, and each one of those modes have chords, and these are the modes that you use to play over each one of those chords. So it's the fundamental notes, and it's very important to understand that because now you got something to connect you to the music, which is connecting you to the chords.
I have a question
So
for you, Jason, before you continue,
yes,
because let me just understand this because I'm taking notes as well. So,
okay, sure,
where a lot of us are, okay, is in that standard position. So you said Ionian or just standard major. I think you were on C. Yes. All
yeah,
right.
C,
So here's the issue: is that a lot of us play there, and we stay there within those first four frets, right?
yes,
So, and as time goes on, we learn specific licks, learn specific positioning, but for the most part, that's where we live. Okay?
okay,
And you just showed us because we've all probably heard modes as well. But
right,
what you showed us, very strategically each note and what each note means. Now we don't only have to play within those first four frets, right? We
right,
can
that's
play
correct.
from where your index finger is, basically the root C. And now, if you go on the last note on the Phrygian, where does that end? Like if you go, okay,
So
so that's
unfortunately,
Dorian.
yeah,
So we have
yeah,
the Ionian, the Dorian,
Ionian,
um,
Dorian,
and then the
and then
Phrygian.
Phrygian.
Go ahead to the Phrygian. So play like the last note on that scale.
Of the Phrygian.
Yes. Okay, so where that ring finger is now, I can't count how many frets there are, but now it's widened up from the first
Yes,
floor to over there, and that's just over the three modes that we're going over today. I just
yes,
feel like that's eye opening to know that okay, now my base, no pun intended, but where I live on the neck can be stretched out
absolutely.
from that first fret to that last fret. Okay, I just wanted
Yes.
to have that reiterated because that's important. No, now I think you were in where each mode, okay, has its own chord structure. I don't know exactly where you're going, but yeah.
Yes. So each mode has, this is the key part here. Each
Okay.
mode has a chord, right? So chords are built in thirds. So like if we took the mode, like let's say the Ionian, for example, we could all agree this is the sound of it. But there's a chord. Like the first chord would be a just a simple major chord. So what you do is you take the root, which is the first note, and then the third, hence the third, which is the third note, and then the fifth, hence the fifth note in the mode, and that's a C major triad, which is technically a chord.
Okay.
So now you get a chord, and now you have a chord type. So this would be a C major chord, like I said. And if we're in the key of C
Hmm.
and we have the C major chord, now we know that what's related to that chord is these notes, the Ionian,
Okay.
right? So we're no longer guessing what the chord type is or guessing what notes are available because again, we're not keyboard players, right? We don't play chords necessarily. Like that's not our role in a song. So in most cases. So we had to have some kind of way to figure out what chord type and also what notes are available. And those notes that are available are the notes from the mode, which is
So would
fundamental.
so would you say all right.
Sorry.
So would you say that like me as a bass player, I learned bass first. Bass was my first instrument, okay?
Okay.
So I'm used to playing, and I used to take this the wrong way. Oh, you play bass, you only play one note at a time, so it's easy, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, oh, sorry, I'm just holding the whole band on my back, but whatever. Yeah, so playing bass, we know, okay, this is the root. At least this is me. And guys out there, let me know what you're thinking when you're playing the bass. I'm like, okay, what's the root note? What's the bass line? How do I lock in with the drums? And how do I just keep it simple? If I have two times I need a shine, let me practice a little riff and then go back to what I'm doing. Like that's the mindset. Okay.
Yes.
But what you're saying is in order to get into that kind of advanced
Yes.
place, we also need to know, even if we don't play the chords,
Right.
if we know the chords or the structure of the chords while the keyboard's playing, or when you're playing in a band,
Right.
it just opens a whole new level or set of rules where we can
Correct.
play fluidly. Am I understanding that correctly?
That's absolutely correct.
Okay.
It opens up another world. I like how you use that phrase because that's exactly what it does. It opens up the world of understanding now. That's the next level, right? You're now understanding how to respond, right? Because now, if I hear C major, let's say we're still in the key of C. Keys, the key is very important because we're talking about the content. The key is C. Now, when I hear the key, when I hear a C major chord, right? Because I can identify it by root, third, and fifth, right? I can, oh, that's that chord. Very simple. Now I know how to respond to it,
Okay.
right? So I hear the C major. Now to get to that next level is how do I respond to C major,
Okay.
right? On a fundamental level, it's using the mode, right?
Right.
So if I talk about that one chord, is Ionian. Those are the fundamental notes,
Okay.
right? And it's very important to understand that those notes, those group of that range of notes and that sound is a response. Of course, we don't play like this, right? We don't play in a exercise way when we're playing songs. So I want to make that clear.
Okay.
So we don't take this and directly apply that in that sense. But what you have to understand is how each one of those notes affect the chord, right? Because you have C major, and this note has an effect. That's the root. That's probably the strongest note in the chord. And as you get away from the root, you're getting these different intervals, which is just distance between notes that have a certain effect on the chord. It has a certain sound on the
Okay.
chord.
Okay.
So when as you study that, then you realize that okay, these are the notes in here in the chord, but it has a certain effect depending on how you use it.
Okay, perfect. I just want to give everyone on the live a chance, let them know the question lines are open. Okay, understanding right now we're going over the kind of the first three ways to stretch your fretboard or how you see the fretboard with Ionian, and we're in the key of C. So that's C Ionian, D Dorian, and E Phrygian. And understanding the chords that are being played during a song so that are relative to whatever you're playing. Okay. So, hold on one second. Okay, that's good. All right. I hope I didn't make you lose your train of thought where you're going with
Oh
that.
no,
I
no,
just
we're
want to
good.
let everyone know. Yes. All right. So yeah, where you left off, we can continue from there.
Yes. So as Jacob was saying, like, there's a stretch, and that's one thing I would like to talk about too. Is you do not have to be locked in to this shape. Don't have to be locked into it. So you could. I like to come up with solutions when I'm practicing. Right. I like to come up with something that makes me think beyond just this shape. So one thing I can give you guys is to think. Earlier Jacob said, you know, the highest note was like E, right? Let's say that's where we want to end up, right? So let's say our lowest note is C in C Ionian, and then we want to end up as for E as our highest note. What you could do is you could kind of, once you know the notes, right? You memorize the sound and you know the notes, then you could kind of expand that, right? And stop to and not really think too much about the shape and think about, going from point A to point B. So if my target is like, let's say this high E here, this is C, this is the root note, and let's say that's my target to end up there, right? I could end up there like that. So, it kind of just expands it just from being contained into that shape, you know. And yeah, the other thing too is okay, we're talking about the mode and the chord related to the mode.
Yes.
And the other thing to that is key about this is the intervals. Like I was saying earlier, like each interval has an effect. So the interval is basically the distance between the root note and the next note. So the note above the root. So in this case, if we put numbers to the mode, we have the root note, which is 1, and then we have the second note, and then we have the third note, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh, and back to the octave. So each one of those are intervals. It's very important to understand the intervals as well, right? So if we're going from root to the second, we call that a major second. We're going to root to the third, that we call that a major third. Root to the fourth note in the mode, that's a perfect 4. Root to the 5, that's the perfect 5. Root to the 6, that's the perfect 6. Root to the 7, that's a major 7, and then the octave, of course. It is as I'm playing, you could hear each one of those notes having an effect with reference to the root. So it's
That
important to understand that.
if I could interject there, that almost sounds like can we do an exercise around that? Is that
Yeah.
something as we talk about drills so that we can understand, these different modes and different positions and well, let me ask you this question. So, learn Ionian, which most of us probably already know, and then Dorian and Phrygian, and then moving through there. What are some drills you have? I don't know if you have up to 3, but what are like a few drills other than learning the actual shapes that we can do to, get comfortable with how those 3 first modes interact with each other when we're playing a song?
Yes. So I would say just start very basic. So if you already know the mode like that, try to take it to the next octave. So play it in two octaves, because it will show you it will show you how to stretch this thing, right? So, I went from the third fret on the A string all the way up to the 15th fret, or uh, yes, the 15th or the 17th fret
Okay.
on the G string. So that's a huge leap if you played it in 2 octaves. So that's something I would give as a drill, is that to really challenge yourself, try to take it to 2 octaves. The same thing with Dorian, and the same thing with Phrygian. You want to take each one of those up into 2 octaves. That's a really good way to stretch it, like how Jacob was saying earlier. Just how do I get out from this box? Try
Right.
to take it out so you can see it into and throughout the entire neck. And what you're doing is, for the folks out there that may have trouble with know what notes of the frets are, that's a great way to learn the notes of the frets. So you're getting like a tune one. You're learning how to connect your fretboard musically, and also you're learning your fretboard, right? Because if I had to go from the third fret to the 17th fret on the G string, I better know what those notes are. So it's pushing you to make get out of this position all and go through the different areas and regions of the bass neck. So that's one I could give. The other one would be like doing it in intervals, right? So you could break, let's say Ionian, you could do it in thirds, right? Where you go root to the third, the second note to the third note to its third, the fourth note to its third, the fifth note to its third. So you're just playing in intervals of thirds. And I'm pretty sure you all have heard that before.
So how would you do that on the? So you're saying do that on just like do that for the Ionian, then do it for the Phrygian, and then do it for the.
Yes.
Sorry, Dorian and then Phrygian.
The Phrygian,
Is
each
that
one
what
of
you're
them.
saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
How would the? I'm just curious. How would the Dorian third sound like?
Yes. So on Dorian, it would basically be the same concept. So what all we're doing is just translating the same concept to the next mode available. So on Dorian, it'd be, you start with the root note and then its third, and then the second note and its third,
Hmm.
and then the third note, and so on and so forth.
I think that's super helpful, especially so, and I'll tell the audience too. So these guys, they're teachers. That's part of like kind of what they do, and a lot of times, I have to talk to teachers and be like, "Hey, look, this is how we understand it. There's
Yeah.
what you teach, and there's how we understand." So I'm being a student of this as well. The way I can see it, as far as going in thirds and octaves, it's really just how being comfortable seeing the neck and being able to move
Yes.
fluidly. If you're able to do deep, because honestly, I've done Ionian in thirds as just practice. I just never thought of doing the D Dorian in thirds or the Phrygian in thirds. And I just feel like just being able to do that exercise, it can even sound like a riff a little bit, and you just change a few notes
Mhm.
or play it at a certain speed or differently, and you're just automatically there. Another thing that the teachers, and I spoke to them before, want to stress as well, that people like me or just intermediate bass players, we know the scales, we know the shapes, but it's something with knowing the notes as well.
Right.
And one thing Jason had said, if you're gonna practice something, you might as well knock two things out with it. So this is something I'm going to incorporate, and I suggest you guys incorporate too. If you don't know all the notes already on your fretboard, is when you first start playing it to say the notes out loud of what you're playing. I'll be honest, I'm still a little skeptical if I need to know all the notes on my fretboard. But all the pros say you got to know all the notes, okay? So, hey,
Yes.
I'll listen to what the pros say, all right, and actually learn all of the notes on the fretboard. So, Jason, I'll go over I'll just talk about the drills, kind of the summary. And guys, if you have any questions, again, go ahead and drop it in the chat. And if you can hear us and everything is good, just write an okay, and we'll get this thing going. But this is the summary of what I have so far. Is you were in the note of C, okay, and you're talking about seeing the neck, right? Because
Yes.
we get stuck sometimes, and we just play on this box here. If we're in the note of C, we have the Ionian, which is the first mode. We have Dorian, which D Dorian, which is the second mode, and then we have E Phrygian, which would be the third mode. Okay. As far as drills, we have doing them in octaves. So let's say we're playing the Ionian, and then we just do that second octave up on that last string, which will be a G string,
Yes, sir.
and then drill doing them in thirds. So you would do one, two, three, and then continue
Two.
third wise for all of those modes. Okay, that way you get some fluidity and you know how to move up and down. Does all that sound correct? Does that sound good, Coach?
Yeah,
Did
that
I say
sounds
all
good.
that correctly?
Sorry, I
Yeah,
didn't. Yeah, and one more thing I'd like to
yeah.
add. That's great, and I hope you guys take notes of that because that's exactly how what I would recommend to practice. One thing I would like to say that is key about all of this modal stuff, which I should have covered first, is there's a hierarchy, right? So the first mode, Ionian, is the parent scale, right? It is the notes of the key. That is something we'd all agree upon. Then now when we start getting to the modes, that becomes like the siblings, or it becomes like the offsprings of the parent, right? Because each one of these modes are diatonic. When I say diatonic, the notes are coming from the parent scale. If you look at D Dorian, it's still the notes of C major. D, E, F, G. Is no other notes other than the notes from the C major. It's just in a different order. And each one of those modes produce, even though it's the same notes, they produce a different sound. So now one should question that. Why is it a different sound, even though it's the same notes of the parent scale? And that's where your understanding of intervals has to get will come into play. The intervals, like right, the distance between two notes is what dictates the sound of something. So that's why practicing thirds and hearing that is very important. And you could also practice in the other intervals. I don't want to give too much, but let's say you could practice it in fourths as well. You could go the first note to the four, second note to the four, third note to the four, fourth, etc. So understanding intervals and the sound between two notes is very, very crucial when it comes to understanding why the modes sound different. Every single mode sound different from each other, but they are all the same notes from the parent mode. It's kind of mind-boggling.
Yeah, no, and when you were saying, I was already thinking past the thirds. I'm like, oh, then you could do it with fourths, and
Right.
that just opens your vocab. I would guess. I'm thinking,
Oh
that
yes,
and it's a good kind of warm up exercise. So,
absolutely.
in the chat, guys, I wrote what those first three modes were. Again, we're going on over the foundational, and if some of you already kind of understand this information, that's great. But for those of us that might not understand this yet, so basically, we played from C, which is, can you show me C on your bass, Jason? There, we
Yes.
played from C, so that's a third fret, right? On
Yes. On
right
the A
there,
string.
and we've already expanded to, I think you said, the eighth fret for the E on the Phrygian.
Yeah. Seven it'll be.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
So just that alone, understanding, okay, if we have three shapes in between there, we could kind of mix them together, and we got more space to work with. Knowing that the Ionian is our parent, is that what you said? Like
Yeah. It's a parent scale.
parent scale, and moving on. So, Coach, I'm gonna leave the. We got Craig saying it sounds good, awesome. I'm glad that we
Great.
can get this foundational part section, because we need to know what to do and how to do it. And now we're gonna
Absolutely.
transition into what. Okay, now that I have the tools, how do I know which tool to use? So
Right.
let's invite Coach Greg here. Let me get Greg on here.
Hello, hello.
All right. So this is Coach Greg, and Greg, you'll do kind of an introduction into who you are, what you do. But we just kind of after that, we kind of just want to run right into this. Now that we have the foundation, I think you have some good things with us. How do we use what we just learned?
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Greg, and I'm a bass player and teacher for a long time. But so I'll be keen to just go straight into ways that you can get into taking the modes once you kind of have them under your fingers and some understanding, how you could go about making them a bit more musical and using them to create musical ideas, which could be things like fills or melodies or soloistic things, maybe more leaning towards bass lines and fills for now. But let's just go straight in with those two shapes that we've just come out of, which is C Ionian and D Dorian. So something I would kind of maybe think about doing straight away is understanding, like, if you are someone who only knows your pentatonic scale, major pentatonic, and then adding your seventh, and if you have pentatonic vocabulary, like maybe you can play things like, this is kind of standard bass playing stuff, just add that seventh into your run. So for instance, instead of playing, just go, and already you're kind of adding a bit more of a melodic touch there, and just kind of hinting at that seventh now. Now you're really starting to get the sound of Ionian versus the major pentatonic. Pentatonic is that kind of my girl kind of sound, whereas the Ionian, you add that seventh to your pentatonic and you're starting to get more of the sound of the Ionian mode. Now Dorian, we're coming here to Dorian, and we play our Dorian mode, and we've just checked that out. And so if you know minor pentatonic stuff, which a lot of bass players do, we start kind of there, and you have this kind of shape, and you're playing loads of fills like this, then you can just add that natural sixth from Dorian and try playing similar rhythmic fills, but just adding that one note. So instead of going something like, you could go, and now you're kind of getting more of the sound of Dorian than minor pentatonic. Okay? So again, if someone was playing, for instance, chord 1 of C major 7, instead of thinking C major pentatonic, add that seventh and play your same kind of rhythmic runs, but just now shape it around the mode more. And the same goes for, let's say the next chord is D minor 7, and we know D is D Dorian in this key, and instead of going, now just add in a note from Dorian, and you're going to really be stating that Dorian sound a lot more than if you just used your minor pentatonic, So the first kind of thing you might practice is that. Say to yourself, I'm going to take that major pentatonic on C and the minor pentatonic on D, and I'm going to just start slowly adding one note from the mode to my normal runs. And already you're going to start to get more of the sound of the mode. And because you're taking something you already know, I just think it's not as scary to be like, I have to use every note and do new things. No, you can kind of take one step away from pentatonic, and you're going to be good. And then following on from that, did you want to say something, Jacob?
Yeah, let me just put myself on the screen here, just so that we understand. if I'm understanding correctly, okay, so we learned our Ionian, learned our Dorian. You're taking some things that we probably already know and
Uh-huh.
making it a step to applying the Ionian and Dorian and something we might already know. So
Yeah.
we have the major pentatonic, right? And you're
Hmm.
saying, I forgot what key you were in, but you're saying,
Staying in C, yeah.
okay, C. So you're
Uh-huh.
saying on that pentatonic, just add that major seven.
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
So
And
instead of
yeah.
playing your major pentatonic like that,
Uh huh.
you're going to just play, just really hit that 7 now that you
Yeah.
know it's there, you know?
And when you say hit that seven, that can be a like a hammer on. That can be just like kind of a short accent, like just to kind of, I don't know, make it sound, put some spice into it.
Yeah, I think if you are really wanting to get that spice of that across, you want to emphasize it a little bit for sure, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then now for the Dorian, you're saying add that minor,
Add a natural
at a
6, yeah.
at a natural six. Okay. Can
Yeah,
you
so
go
you
ahead and
have your
show that?
minor pentatonic.
Mhm.
That's kind of your classic minor pentatonic, and I'm just going to go, I'm just adding that note.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
Perfect. Yeah, I just wanted to make just just wanted to
yes.
get that down. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah. So now I would love it if people ask questions. If anyone's there, please, tell me to stop, slow down, do whatever you want, you know. The next step from this is, I would say, is because we're bass players, and what I just did there, I kind of just did an example of a fill, and then I did an example of a fill on the next chord. But what you can do is, and I really love this, is create a motif, which is a short melodic and rhythmic blueprint. So what I mean by that is, if I take my C major Ionian, okay, and I take my D Dorian, I might try and make up something really, really short. So in the beginning, don't make up a 9-note motif, Just try play like 3 or 4 notes. So for instance, I'm going to play this. Okay, so what I did was 6, 7, 5, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so all I'm doing is I'm playing the 6th note of that, the 7th note of that scale, 6th note, 5th note, 3rd note, 2nd note, root. Now what you do is, you take that exact same set of numbers and you move it to D Dorian. And now,
All right, hold on, Greg.
okay, sorry.
No, I mean you went
Yeah.
great. Again, I'm
Mhm.
just this is just my style. I want to make sure that I understand. So, as far as you said, just create a motif that sounds good to you within your scale, and I think all of us as intermediate bass players, we can create a motif. The one
Uh,
that you chose was 6 7 5 3 2 1.
yeah.
And you're saying that that number system that we know, we could transfer that. I know we just went over 3 modes, but we could transfer that through all the modes if we wanted to. Is that correct or no?
Yes, for sure. 100%
Okay.
everything, yeah.
So it almost sounded like you made it like a bass line, like
That's
there.
what's super cool is like you will just make cool sounding bass lines if you do that.
Okay, don't mean to put you on the spot, but can we create
Here we
can we
go.
create
Yeah,
another
97.
motif like right?
Yeah, yeah,
No
yeah, yeah.
pressure.
Okay,
Let's
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean
yeah.
just to see the application of how it is.
Okay, there. I made another one. So I'm playing 5, 5, 3, 5, 2, 1, and now I'll go here on Dorian.
And I think, oh, mic check. Is this
Uh-huh.
on?
Yeah,
It's
it's
on?
a little loud. Yeah, it's loud.
Is it better?
Can you put it down a little bit?
Is it better now? Is it better now?
It's good. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to add to that. What's Greg doing is that he's doing like he's playing like fragments of the pentatonic, and I think what is key, like from my experience, is when you analyze it, like how Greg's doing it, is that when you start to learn songs and bass lines from a record, then you already have kind of an idea of how things could be done. And then when you hear that, you could identify it immediately. I noticed, like, when you take exercises like what Greg is showing and you really, go through all of this stuff, it's like it gives you more than what you need. And when you go learn that record and you hear that pattern or shape, you're like, oh, this is what's going on.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and hearing, that's why, I don't know. Okay. Yeah. That's why, Greg, I had asked you to just do another motif, because it's weird, because it already sounds musical. You know what I mean? I guess, and I'm gonna go ahead and hand it off back to you. It's like, okay, that's cool. So I know how to sound musical. Now, how can I use that in my playing where, I'm staying in the root, I'm holding the bass line, and they say, all right, Jacob, take it away. It's like, okay. So an option that goes in my head is I could just play the same number system I'm playing now. And if it fits based on my practice, knowing I can do that in a Phrygian mode, I can do that in a Dorian mode, or I can do the same number system, think of it in my head, and use my thirds interval practice to end out the run. Or like Jason was saying, things like that. Now, the tools that we're learning, just slight little tools, or adding a major seventh or a natural sixth on the Dorian, or can kind of. I got more tools I can work with, but I'll let you go more into that, Greg.
No, yeah, totally. That's it. So I would just say an amazing thing to spend your time practicing is going through those fundamentals that we went through in the beginning, like being able to play them up and down and understanding how they relate to the parent scale and understanding the order of notes and how it's numbered. And then you could spend a lot of time just picking any kind of motif and then moving it through your modes. That's such a good way to practice. And you don't have to do it immediately in time, Just in the beginning, try just, get it down like, okay, how do I move this to here? Okay. That takes some time to get down, Once you get it down, then maybe put a drum loop on and try play it, in the pocket. And then, like we'll do, is taking a song and being able to now put this on a set of chords, Before I do that, one more thing is, like, we spoke about practicing in fourths and fifths and creating fills with that at the end of these types of motivic bass lines. And so I really love that kind of stuff. Just one more thing. Everyone knows that Sheree Reed video where, everyone knows the video. I mean, in that video, he goes. That's literally it. He's playing a motif. One on this chord, one on that chord. The exact same phrase, That's what that bass line is. But okay. Anyways. I can see the chat here. Oh, there you go. Thank you so much to Craig. That's awesome. Beautiful. Jacob, your mic is off.
Okay, yeah, he was just saying that the motif in every mode.
I have one question. If I'm a bassist, if I'm a bassist that I know my modes, right? This is just a scenario. I know my modes. Right. So how you're translating those modes into pentatonics? Like how are you finding those pentatonics from those modes, like the Ionian, Dorian, and Phrygian, for the people that might not understand how to translate that.
Yeah, I suppose you'll start to see them So for instance, maybe you've practiced Ionian, and then you might say to yourself, "Oh wow, like the outside of that scale is the pentatonic scale." I call it securing the perimeter. You know, if you're like a
Oh, okay.
security guard. You know?
No, I was just wondering.
Like here's Dorian. Yeah, and I don't know. It's like I play the outer notes of the modes, and I kind of start to see the pentatonics.
Okay, so if I heard of the pentatonic, right? I know
So,
the pentatonic is the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and octave. I could just take that framework and apply it to.
I like to take any motif that I play on my pentatonics, like classic fills that we all play on pentatonics. If we had to play this kind of, that's like a classic kind of C major pentatonic. Like I said, I would just add in.
Okay.
I'm just adding one note from the Ionian, and then it's kind of taking something I know and then applying it to something I just learned, and not treating them like two completely separate things. It's not like I'm playing modes now, so I'm not going to use any of my pentatonic stuff and any of my vocabulary and phrasing from pentatonics. No, I would totally bring all the rhythmic and melodic stuff you do with that and add one note, and now you're going to sound like you're, blazing with your modes.
I think this part is super important. Like, this is going to be a little clip for our page, because the thing is I think that's where a lot of the disconnect is. I'm learning modes now. I'm playing in modes.
Yeah.
I'm playing pentatonics now. Now I have to go back to, it's the fusion of being able to see both things layered. So that's why I think, and you were saying you could expound on that. Instead of you seeing like two different ways to play, let's start from what you know. Pentatonics, right?
Yes,
say major or minor, whatever. Adding that one note that you specified for us, if it's the major, the seventh, and if it's the minor and the sixth, for D Dorian, just add that one note. Okay. And in your head, you'll kind of understand, okay, I'm playing pentatonics, but this note I'm playing it's under the foundation. I'm still in my modes. And now when you start adding one note, two notes, or however you want to get into, then you start not seeing it as separate ways of playing. It's more of, this is the whole map that's available to me. Now, based on the sound I want to play, I know I'm playing a pentatonic, but I'm playing a pentatonic over a certain mode.
Yeah, and vice versa, like if you're playing, everything is kind of available to you once you kind of get your triads, pentatonics, and modes down. You can kind of choose what direction you want to take it in, and if you want your playing to sound more modal, then adding that sixth to your minor pentatonic, it's going to do it. It's going to give it more of that Dorian flavor, because if you play just minor pentatonic on Dorian, some of the notes are there, but you add one note and it's kind of like, oh, it sounds more like the flavor of Dorian now. So you can make that decision, that's like an artistic choice. Instead of I'm stuck with pentatonics, you can say,
So that's like an effective way of outlining the harmony, correct? Right? So like I'm exposing that Dorian flavor, right? That Dorian vibe by putting that six with that flatted third and the flatted seven, opposed to just playing the root, hang on the root. So it's really just holding to those details. Is that correct?
For sure, 100%. Like, yeah, I think it's so cool when a piano player suggests Dorian with that note and you kind of join them by playing it. Yeah, you're kind of supporting the harmony,
right?
Sometimes even more, or just being able to say, I'm here with you, like I'm playing that too. I think that's cool. Like it just sounds awesome to me,
Let me ask you each this question, and then I'll let you continue, Greg. I think you got some good things coming up as well. So Jason, you'll answer first, and then Greg. So when you guys are playing, like what I had described earlier, how do you see the neck? Are you playing in sections, like, or you're playing? I'm playing more modal now. Now this sounds more pentatonic, or like what? Or is it for you just a free flowing? Like you don't really think of it that way. You're just flowing free, and your fingers are already knowing where you're going. Like what goes on in your head?
That's a great,
Jason,
great
first, and
question.
then
Thanks for asking
I'll
that,
chance it.
Jacob. So for me, I've practiced these things so much that I've got it under my fingers, but now I'm at the point where I kind of like leave it in my subconscious where I'm not thinking too much about it and I'm kind of flowing. I'm kind of just changing to the next available note within that chord. So it's kind of like a free flow. So that way I'm not boxed in to like habitual stuff. Like I'm not like, oh well, I'm playing this out of habit, because you don't want to do that. You want to be able to just change to the next available note, and it kind of goes back to what we were talking about. Do we think of one thing? Are we thinking about just pentatonics, or we thinking? How about we think about it holistically, where we just make what we do with the pentatonics or the mode a byproduct of our expression. So what comes first is what you want to express, and then you just use the modes and the pentatonics or the intervals as a way to help you convey that expression. So, but yes, it's definitely free flow for me. Um, I just, just really just rely on, it depends on the context, like the song, and where I'm at. Maybe if I'm up here, and I'm trying to get down here, I kind of just, it's free flowing, but in an intentional way. I'm not just like playing random stuff. Okay, let's say I'm here, but I want to end up do a fill that will get me back to the root note down here. Then I'm thinking of ways. It might be a mode, it might be a pentatonic shape or pattern, or it might be an interval. Let me put this up. It might be. Oops. If I were to get to D like that, or I might go like a pentatonic, or like I might use some of the modes. Like, so it just really depends. Like I'm kind of just anticipating where I'm trying to get. In that free form type of way, I'm anticipating. Okay, if I'm here, but I want to get down here. How am I doing that? And I'm letting my expression be priority, and not really like, I must play the Dorian, or I must play. I already know that stuff. I'm just letting that be. You know, if I'm playing Dorian, I play Dorian. If I'm playing the pentatonic, it's whatever that it takes to get me to my goal, back down to that downbeat, for example. Yeah.
Greg. Yeah. So yeah, when you're playing, like, are you in different phases? Are you in different? Okay, now I'm playing. I want to sound modal, pentatonic, or like what goes on in your head?
Yeah, I don't think I like think so much like that. When I'm practicing a new thing, then I'm there. I'm like, okay, I'm trying to do this. I need to get here, and I know I need to play this. I could play this scale. I could play this thing. That's a good way to work on new stuff. But when I'm playing, I'm trying my best not to think about numbers and mode names and scale names and arpeggios. But one thing I would just say that could be helpful to people watching is maybe you can't. Once you kind of know the stuff across the neck quite well, because a lot of students ask this, what are you thinking? It's very difficult to think about scales, arpeggios, triads, modes while you're playing. But things that you can be conscious of is direction, up, down, rhythm, dynamics. Those are things you can sing with your mouth, in real time. I can't say, I'm going to play seventh chord arpeggio upside down, but I can go dung. And that means I can do that with my fingers then.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say if you're wanting to learn to get into that zone of not thinking while you play, try like really dumb down what goes through your mind while you're like trying to get into that state of not thinking. Try think of up, down, left, right. Loud, soft, rhythmical things, because if you get into the moment of always going, I'm on this chord, I'm going to play this, you're kind of going to struggle to play freely. You know, you don't want to think that much while you're playing. That's for practice time, you know.
And then I'll say this because I think it's super important. So people like me, I feel like a lot of people fit in my category, whether it's intermediate or not. What happened is we started sounding good early in our bass playing, right? We sounded good. We understand music, understand foundation. So we started performing super quickly. Some would say prematurely, but it was fine. So we hear something, it sounds good. We practice a run, it sounds good. We fumble through it until we're comfortable. Boom. 5 years, 7 years down the line, 10 years down the line, we kind of stayed there. We play good, we sound good, but there is a kind of a sensitive area where we see other people flowing, and it's like, wait, how do you do that? And all we hear is practice, practice. You need to know your notes on the fretboard, but it still doesn't like translate. It's like, okay, I learned all the notes on my fretboard, and what? So the reason why what we're saying is important now, and I could ask coaches like you, what are you thinking about? You're actually thinking what we're thinking still. We're thinking about just the notes, just if it sounds good. Like, if we want to put it down to the root of what it is, if it sounds good, do it. You know, whether it's rhythmically or you have some ghost notes in there, or sorry, that's like a drum term, like muted notes, you know, how many times you do a melody, a harmony, whatever. But what I think where we can connect this is still think about what you're playing before you play it. Still think about your ideas. Still be creative. But under that, we can build a more firm foundation of now not only you know what you can play, what you hear, but you also know where you are so that on the fly, that map, you can do quick adjustments and you have more options. And I think that's that link is having more options, because I could learn a riff or a run all day. But what if we're playing in a live environment and the guitar player plays something else for me to play behind? Now it becomes a little different. Now the fact that I know the map, the map of my fretboard, I know the different options that I have. That's just a light bulb that's clicking for me now, that I'm not wrong to think about what I want to play, but it's good to learn the foundation of whether it's the modes or whatever, building that foundation so that I have more options to move in and out of when I need to.
Yeah.
So Greg, I'll let you continue where you were going.
Yeah. Just last thing is, like, if your vocabulary is just pentatonics, then when you talk, you'll talk with pentatonics. So we're doing modes, you add modes to that, and then when you talk with pentatonics and modes. And when you talk, you don't think, but now your vocabulary is bigger. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's like why it's cool to learn this stuff, you know. Okay, so I'm going to attempt to now just talk about ways that I would maybe use this stuff to play a song. Like, can you hear that okay? Can you hear?
Yes. And if you guys can
Okay,
hear,
cool.
just please type a yes in the chat.
Okay, so when I'm playing there, we haven't gotten to this mode yet, but it's a taster for next time that this song starts on chord 4 of G major. Okay, but we are in the key of G major here. But we're playing 4, chord 4 we're starting on. And that mode is the Lydian mode, which we will do next time. Okay? Essentially, the Lydian mode is just the major scale with a sharp 4. So you got this. Do you know what I mean? You've got C major, but just add an F sharp. So you know this. Okay, but I'm going to just talk about, because we spoke about Ionian and Dorian, I'm going to try to show you how I could still use those modes to come up with ideas. And we also spoke about fourths and fifths, which is something I love for fills. So if I play this song now, so I'm just going C, E, D, okay? And numbers 4, 6, 5. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say this is chord 4 to chord 6 to chord 5 of G major. Okay. So because we haven't gone to Lydian yet, I'm going to use my Ionian brain. I'm going to say G major, G Ionian. Okay, so here's G Ionian here. And then we also did Dorian. So here's Dorian here. Okay, and we can play those here. I could practice playing those two modes on the chords to this song because, like we spoke about the parent scale is G Ionian. So we know we can play G Ionian and A Dorian here. So check it out. So what I'm doing there is I'm using that G Ionian mode, and I'm trying to resolve to that C chord, which is what starts the progression. So I'm using the parent mode for fills, but I'm very aware of this is the chord. The chord that I'm aiming at is C. So I want to hit a note, and oftentimes we want to hit the root when that comes back around. So a very cool thing you can practice is playing your G major and playing it more in kind of a melodic fill way, not just, ascending and descending. Use the motivic thing from before and aim at that C, And you can do that out of time. I wouldn't play the song at the tempo it's at when I'm trying to get this down. I would go really slow and potentially out of time and just I'm going to try play a fill using G major and aim at C. So that could look like this. I'm going to do that again. So all I'm doing is I'm kind of creating a melody or fill idea with the G Ionian. I'm aiming at C. And we also learned today that the second mode is Dorian. So there's nothing stopping me from going, mode 2 of G major is A Dorian. So if I just now use these notes, because they also come from the parent scale, I can try that, and it's gonna make me play all notes in a different order, because I'm starting on a different note and I'm ending on a different note, and every note in between will be in a different position rhythmically. So if I play now G major to A Dorian on these chords though. So there I'm practicing very consciously trying to, I'm in my G Ionian mode, and now I'm switching to A Dorian, and I'm trying to aim for that C. So that could be the next level of practice. Can you now move from Ionian to Dorian and back to C? So first G Ionian back to C, next G Ionian A Dorian back to C. And again, I would really recommend doing this, no metronome, no timing, just working on it and seeing where the connections are and listening for where the notes sound the sweetest on the chords, matching up with the chords and aiming at C, That would be maybe a really good thing to try for the next level,
So from what I understand, Greg, is in trying to just making sure I have my notes right, we got to know, we probably already know, when we're playing where we're going, right? So you
Yes.
said it was the 4 to the 6 to the 5.
Yeah.
And understanding, now we're not going to go into Lydian because that's the fourth interval, but let's say we were going to stick with Ionian and Dorian, I
Yeah.
think is where you stayed.
Mm-hmm.
Is that if we're going to practice, or an interesting practice would be, okay, instead of just playing the scale, almost like a motif thing, kind of play around the scale, uh,
Mm-hmm.
but know where you want to land. So
Yeah.
create tension and resolve on that note on different ways.
Yes,
Is that
because
how I
yeah,
understand?
because if you're not aware of that, the fact that you need to resolve, what can
Hmm.
happen is when they go back to C major, you're gonna hit B, because B is in
Okay.
the key of G,
Right.
and you'll get this,
Yeah. That, yeah.
and probably you don't want that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So part of your practice has to be going. I can't just kind of randomly end this. I want to end melodically and rhythmically strong, you know. So try end on notes that are in the chord, you know.
Okay. And would this be one of the, I guess, practices that you have for us? How? So let's say, especially in this song, and I think the backing track is available. And for those who don't know, this is Proverbs 3 by Todd Delaney. But Greg just made a great backing track for us because, I mean, it's simple and it's something that we kind of all play, that 4, 6 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say would be one or a few things that we can practice? Now we know the application is moving through those different modes just so that we can map where we are based on what we
Mm-hmm.
feel like playing.
Yeah, I really love. Well, I mean, it's simple, but I really love kind of ascending one and descending the next one. Okay. Because now you're kind of connecting them, you know. And again, you could also go the other way. So you're trying to now ascend G Ionian, descend A Dorian, or ascend A Dorian, descend G Ionian, and just work on the connection point. You know, here it is like kind of by itself. How can I connect these? Okay, like that sounded smooth, you know. It doesn't sound like I'm going up and I'm going up and I'm going up and I'm going up. It's kind of always working on, oh, I'm here and I want to get to Ionian, you know. So I'm playing inside here. Where can I make that movement happen in a smooth way? Not so kind of, I don't know what the word is, angular, you know,
And chords have
Yeah.
common tones, like
if that makes sense.
uh, you did the was it A Dorian to what was the progression again?
G Ionian, yeah. There I
Yeah,
was doing
so
A
like
Dorian to G Ionian, yeah.
you know, each one of those chords share common tones that you could be lended over to the next chord. So like A has like E in it. That's like the fifth of that chord, and also the sixth of the G. So there's ways to make it a smooth connection. Just thought I'd add that.
So yeah, those would be that would be something I would practice for sure, you know. How are we doing for questions or for time, you know? I don't want to like
Right. Yeah.
give too
I
much,
mean,
then people go, I don't even know what to do now.
no, I think this is a good spot because especially this will be recorded as well, and people are open to asking questions. Hold on. Yeah, folks can ask questions even on the our platform, Fellowship Plus. But I just wanted to get the exercises down because these are things that I'll implement as well. As far as you had talked about the point where both of the modes kind of merge together, and sometimes you could just make it musical. That doesn't mean you'll play the whole mode technically or full, but you're technically in that mode. so that you could connect it to the previous one. So I think that's all great. Um, just to kind of go over everything before we're almost done here, is that we are here because intermediate bass players sometimes need they feel nervous, or there's a split second of indecision when they're called to solo or when they're called to do something different on the spot. And talent can take us far, but it could only take us so far. We play good, we sound good, but there's kind of that disconnect. So right now we're just learning about mapping the neck so that whatever you want to play, again, I thought when you learn modes, you play in modes, right? In the sense of now your playing style has changed, and it's kind of more.
Now it's like
it's more
illegal to
mechanical.
use pentatonics,
right?
You know.
Exactly. Or I
Yeah.
have to change myself to play. Like, rather than that, I'm seeing it like these are the tools that I have, and understanding that this is how I see the neck. I can still play whatever I want to play, but just in case I were to be lost, or just in case maybe I played a little too fast and I just need to understand where I am, I know a way back to where I want to go based on where I am. And I think that's a great like mental like unlocking there. So we were in the key of C, Jason. For Jason's example, we went over the C Ionian, the D Dorian, and the Phrygian. For those who didn't know, he did go over each one and how he would play it. Now, some exercises he had was playing, let's say you're playing the Ionian in C, to just continue that octave through that last string. If you're standard tuning, I think that's the G string there. So, and do that with each of the modes. The other drill was doing your modes in thirds. Again, that's just it sounds good. I think it sounds good, and it's an easy way. It gets your fingers activated and moving. You go back and forth. Once you're good with that, you can go up in thirds, down in fourths, down in fourths. Like, you could change it to whatever, but I think thirds is a good place to start, just so it sounds good and you can get it going. And now, if you want to skip notes, you do the first thirds but come down on thirds starting with the fifth. Like, you can get really creative with how you want to do that, but I think that's a great exercise because it sounds good, it gets your fingers going, and it's more musical. And then Greg was talking about, okay, you don't necessarily have to shift. Like, we all know pentatonics, so that's a good starting point. If you're playing a pentatonic riff or fill, you don't have to necessarily stop playing pentatonics to play your mode. Just add that major seventh. Just add that major seventh on your major pentatonic, and your bass line. You're in a mode there without even knowing it, and it sounds good. And then in that Dorian, just play that. Greg, is it that natural six?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, that natural six. And again, guys, I'm visual. I'll go back and try to make some type of visual thing so we can all understand. It's just easy to look at. And then you talked about making that motif. All right, whatever it is. You started with the 6-7-5-3-2-1, and then you did a 5-5-3-5-5-5-2-1. One of the nuggets that you went over is practice that motif in every mode, or in this sense, the Ionian, the Dorian, the Phrygian. It's crazy that it's the same motif, the same number system, but it sounds different, and it's already musical. You might not even need to do any changes to it. You can just keep it there. All right. So we went over the Proverbs 3 kind of sound, and that backing track, we should have it available in our community. Thank you, Greg, so that we can practice ascending in, or ascending in Ionian and descending in Dorian, if you'd like. However you want to do it, just make it musical, just so you can get a feel for how wide now you understand the mapping between those first three. The great news, and does that all sound good, coaches? Just like a nod, a thumbs up, or is there anything else you wanted to add on that? Okay, cool, awesome. This is such great information, and that's only 3 of the 7 modes. Imagine being able to widen that out to 7 modes. Now, to the point, it's like too much information. Like, whoa, I can do so much. I need some maturity here so I could tone it down. But that's the whole thing. Now you'll feel, again, this is based on how we feel as bass players, that you'll feel like you have superpowers. So anytime someone's like, yo, do whatever you want, we got 30-second fill, bass, take it away. It's like, oh, first of all, that never happens. That never happens for us bass players, but oh, I'll take it. I got this mode. I got pentatonics. I could add this in. I got rhythm. I have muting, and that kind of opens up your confidence. So thank you guys for that. I just have so that also brings us to, let me see here. All right. I just want to close with, guys. So this is the type of thing we can expect in Fellowship Plus. All right. The point is that we're invisible no more. It's kind of funny, a phrase that bass players are often not seen. There was this meme I saw that bass found out after 20 years of playing that the sound engineer never plugged his amp in or something like that. It was a funny joke, but we're often, oh, that's the bass player, or we could just get by with keyboard and drums. But that we do matter, and it does make a difference. Even people in the audience, it's like when they're not used to hearing a bass player and then they do, it's like, wait, something changed in the music and I like it. So you guys have that power, and this is the why for building Fellowship Plus, that we're not just heard, that we're seen, that we have a community, expression, and exposure. Okay, that's the whole reason why I made Fellowship just the platform that you guys follow us on, to put other bass players that might not have as much shine, but we built the platform so that we can get, like, most of our views, our median views, I think, is at 25,000 to 30,000 views per video we put. I mean, they're not paying us for this. This is something just showing love for a musician, instrument that we love, and some shine. Like, I've had people say, yo, out of nowhere, I added 5,000 followers in 1 month after your post. I'm like, man, I don't know. Like, you're the talent, it's all good. But being able to have that platform where we're able to do that is amazing. And we wanted to take it one step further, where Fellowship Plus, we're not only showcasing, but we're also mentoring, especially intermediate bass players, to give you guys options while you're out here playing, so that you don't have to feel stuck where you are. Now, as far as our base camp, it's not just one thing. We've collaborated with our coaches, and we're going to collaborate even with different instruments coming here. We have kind of our a monthly base camp. Okay. Now we're looking like this month, there may be 2, just because we're in a series of modes. We did the first 3 and we'll do the last 4, and then we'll probably look at some retooling and seeing where we'll go from there. But as far as right now, the idea is to have a base camp monthly, weekly drills. So what our drills are just practices over either what we studied or what we went over before, or what we're gonna go over. All right, whether it's, hey, this is a tip that I can give you, or this is how I would practice this concept, or based on questions that people have, we can answer that on one of our drills here. So I know we went over some theory because we had to understand where we were, but this is like the first part of the series. As far as, this is not just like a course or a teaching segment. This is more of understanding where you are and how to expand the tools that you need to play. Okay. And yeah, once again, our school community is for serious bass players who want to grow. All right. So right now you're currently on a 30-day free pass from when you signed in. It will be $14 a month. And of course, this helps us continue our page going, and it helps us grow as well, as far as getting other instruments and other resources that we could make this a much smoother process. Okay, so but again, it's a trial. You know, if this doesn't work for you for whatever reason, you guys can reach out to me anytime, and you could cancel that. We do hope you stay. This is kind of where we started, and it's only going to get better and better as we go. This will be available, recorded on the community. Give us about 48 hours, and we'll put it up there. If there are no other questions, oh, okay. I think I missed this here. Let me put it. This is Craig again. Thank you, Craig. Can you jam over that track a couple more times, please, Greg? I hope Craig is still there.
I'm here. I mean,
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would love to ask Greg, is there anything specific you want to hear? But I mean, hey,
I was gonna
lots
say,
of times bass players don't get a chance. Take it away for 30 seconds. I mean, we could do that.
This is, I'm put on the spot, you know.
Let me go ahead and take the screen down here. So you're full screen. Okay.
I mean, am I just gonna jam?
I mean,
Or
hey,
should I not? No, I don't know.
what
talk
you
about
did before? I mean, maybe, I don't know if you have another. He said, yeah.
Just play what stuff.
Yeah, play for us.
That's made me nervous now. Wow.
No, I mean, kind of what you did in the beginning, even a warm up, and yeah, just take it away. Okay, he asked about joining the Ionian and Dorian.
Oh, cool. So yeah, that's what it sounds like when I play G Ionian on that C major chord, and here's A Dorian. And that was, we were talking about fourths and fifths. That was.
So what was that? What was
that's
that?
playing fifths. And if you did fourths, so yeah, all of that stuff, it just sounds like music, you know. You kind of like can't lose, really, honestly. I'm just playing like random fourths, random fifths, Ionian and Dorian, and it kind of just works, you know, if that's okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's funny that you're just kind of blowing it off, but it's like, it sounds like if someone were to play their best run, you know, in a section, and you're saying, hey man, the tools are here for you.
For sure.
Fourths, fifths, up and down.
I just kind of you can see how that's descending fifths. Do you know what I mean? I'm like playing the hammer-ons that I got from Thad Tribbett, actually. You know?
Oh,
I saw him going,
one of my...
and I was like, okay, let's do this slowly and just do it in different order, you know?
So are one of those an open string?
Yeah, I'm kind of like open string, open D string, and then you're hammering on the fifths. And then just playing that through the scale, you know? He does that in that crazy video from like 15 years ago, where he's just playing everything in the universe that he wants. And I can't believe his brother doesn't turn around and be like, man, what is going on?
I think I know what video you're talking about.
Yeah,
too.
but he does that. He goes, and I just thought, whoa, he's just playing through the scale in fifths, but it's the rhythm and the hammer-on, but it is just fifths, you know? So,
before we leave that, so where would you, how did you think of placing that? So on that, 4, 6, 5.
I'm just moving it through the G major scale. Like, honestly, if I showed you without the track playing and I played G Ionian in fifths, like that, you can see that I'm just playing fifths, you know, and I'm just kind of doing them through the scale. Okay,
Okay.
and then if I put the track on,
Yeah.
it's like cool. As long as I resolve it on that C, you know, and fourths is the same. And that was fourths. It's like exactly the same. I'm just playing fourths through the Ionian mode and aiming at the C. But obviously I've practiced this. Do you know what I mean? If I'd never done this before, I would be going, where is every fourth? No, I practice fourths and fifths through the mode, and then you work on like adding rhythm and adding inflections to it, and then it honestly, it sounds musical pretty quickly, you know.
Got you. Craig, I hope that I don't know if you have any more questions, but you asked him to play and he played.
I mean, I tried. I just want it to be useful. I don't want to like just jam here, you know.
Yeah, no, all that is great. So with that, guys, we'll have some updates on our school community. I want to thank everyone who came out. I want to thank our 2 coaches who came out. Who it's like I've gained. There's some things I already knew, but a lot of the things that I didn't know, and Craig commented again. Sounds great. Working on shifting through the modes, and it's funny that's why I think a lot of our intermediate bass players are. So once again, thank you guys. If you have any questions, you're welcome to write it in our school community. We'll see you next time. Please be on the lookout for our next date, and then we'll come back out. So with that, you guys have a good one. I'll stay with you guys on here. Let me just stop the live, and then we'll continue from there.
Okay.
All right. Y'all have a good one. All right.